Hello students, welcome to JCE Connect Module 2 revision session. Subject International Human Resource Management. Subject code 17 MBHR 403, 18 MBHR 403.
Strategies for international growth. First you have exporting. Now what is this exporting? It is nothing but maintaining facilities within the home country and transferring goods and services abroad for sale in the foreign market. So for example, we have Reliance Industries, which exports oil and gas to Europe, Africa and America. Then we have Tata Steel, which exports a large number of steel products like HR coils, ferrochrome, wires and much more to the countries like United States of America, USA, Europe, Jordan, Qatar, Vietnam, Afghanistan, etc. Then you have Sun Pharma Industries, which is the largest pharmaceutical export market in United States of America. Then you have Rajesh Exports, which is in Bangalore, who is a global leader in gold jewelry. Currently, it is exporting the gold jewelry to 60 countries. The company has also recently acquired a gold refinery in Valcambi, which has a lot of credibility in overseas. Other examples of exporting companies are Tata Motors, Vardhaman Textiles, International East Trade Center, Bajaj International Private Limited, Arvind Mills, and finally we have Kiran Gems Private Limited, which is situated in Mumbai, company which exports gems, diamonds, and even jewelry to many countries like US, Hong Kong, and UAE. It is top manufacturer of diamonds in the entire world. Secondly, we have the second strategy for international growth, that is licensing strategy. So here a firm that is licensor in one country giving other domestic or foreign firms licensees the right to use patent, trademark, technology, production process or product in return for the payment of royalty or the fees. So for example here US and Canadian book publishers allow translation, Pepsi and Coca-Cola with bottling companies distributions across countries. For Coca-Cola here, licensing started for brand protection. The company licensed out brand in order to protect against other companies launching Coca-Cola branded products in other categories. Now it is a great example of how to leverage a common brand affinity and nostalgia. Another example here, John Deere. You need to take into consideration how the company was able to leverage its dealers network. Same with Harley Davidson. Both have done a great job creating a lifestyle brand that goes way beyond their core products. The third strategy for international growth is franchising strategy. So here a parent organization, that is a franchisor, grants other companies or individuals, franchisees, the right to use its trademark name and to produce and sell its goods or services. The companies franchising in India are McDonald's, Holiday Inn, Lian's Real Estate, Dixie Chicken, Eurokids International Limited, Ranco Fresh Fruits Ice Cream, Pizza Corner, Kazaria Apparels Private Limited, Gitanjali Jewelries Private Limited, VG Cleaning Systems. So these are just a few examples who follow this franchising strategy in India. The next strategy you have is alliance strategy. It's nothing but agreeing with other companies to pool physical, financial, and human resource to achieve common goals. For example, here Ford and Adidas edition, that is premier leather seats and other luxury features throughout the vehicle. Spotify and Uber, Google and Luxottica, HP and Disney, Starbucks and Barnes and Noble. All these are various alliance strategy following companies. The reason why companies go for alliance strategy, one is to share and lower cost of high risk in technology. Wherein you need not spend too much on innovating or inventing technology, you just hire the company which has already done it. So risk will be lowered as well as you will find the technology with a very lower cost and you share the technology. So lower cost by sharing the large fixed cost for manufacturing plants. Then desire to learn another firm's technology or advantages and benchmark. Then desire to participate in evolution of competitive activities in growing global business. So in all, if you could see, if you have an alliance with a competitive with the business which is really very sound technically as well as very sound financially, obviously you have the greater benefit. Then you we have the next strategy for international growth, that is multi-domestic strategy. It is nothing but adjusting products, services, and practices to individual countries or regions. So Fritos, Lay's, and Campbell Foods, they adjust the taste according to the countries wherein they'll be putting forth their products and services. And McDonald's, if you could see, in 1955, they opened its first restaurant in Des Plaines, Illinois. Today, 2008, it operates over 31,000 restaurants worldwide in 119 countries and on 6 continents, employing more than 1.5 million people all over the world. So they consider a it is a multi-domestic company which considers the taste or the food according to the culture of that particular host country. Then you have the global strategy. It is nothing but stressing worldwide consistency and standardization. Best example for global strategy is Google. Global integration. Global integration means centralized control over key resources and operations that are strategic in value chain. Now let us move in to the depth of global integration. Not many companies want to expand internationally while maintaining the close control over the value chain. Now what is this value chain? Value chain consists of primary activities like research and development, manufacturing, logistics, marketing, etc. And also the support activities like HR, procurement, marketing, sales, merchandise, etc. that are the source of value added and the linkage between these elements. Decisions are made from global perspective. In the extreme, the firm operates as if the world were a single market. That is what we say global integration, integrating the entire globe as one market. One of the best examples for global integration would be Gillette, the US-based consumer giant, which has the global integration strategy being followed. So here, Al Zine, the former CEO who was the architect of Gillette's hugely successful global expansion, put it in this particular way in an interview, saying that we know Argentina and France are different, but we treat them the same. We sell them same products, we use the same production method, we have the same corporate policies, we even use the same advertising in different languages, of course. So this would be the right example for global integration. Moving down to logic of global integration. When we speak about logic of global integration, first point is the economies of scale. So here, why international expansion with control over key resources or strategic drivers for global integration is required? To identify the economies of scale. A company can lower its unit cost by centralizing critical value chain activities such as manufacturing or logistics. So this may involve having a small number of large facilities to make products for exports or creating a network of specialized and focused operations spread around the world that are tightly controlled by the central hub. Then you have value chain linkages. So here sometimes competitive advantage comes from tight linkages between value chain activities, whereas between R&D and manufacturing and marketing in the home country, which is a technological leader. For example, Silicon Valley in the internet equipment business, or between manufacturing and logistics. So tight integration allows the firm to stay ahead of technological and competitive changes. Then you have the next one is serving global customers. To the extent that customers are integrated and operate on the global basis, their suppliers may be forced to adopt a similar structure. Subsidiaries do not have their own standalone customers, prices, quality standards, and delivery terms are determined globally. Then you have global branding. Consumer product companies such as Coca-Cola, Gillette promote a unified brand image around the world. So Coke standardizes both its formula and advertising themes, gaining efficiency in utilizing the market tools such as advertising and merchandising. Then you have leveraging capabilities. Some companies expand globally by transferring capabilities developed in the home market. The international expansion of both IKEA and Walmart depends on supply chain management skills that allow these companies to pursue their traditional low price strategies around the world. Then you have world-class standardization. Key processes are standardized and centrally controlled so that it maintains competitive advantage. Pharmaceutical giant Merck manufacturers locally to meet government requirements. Its manufactures processes are complex, however, and these are standardized in order to maintain high quality. Next point is competitive platform. So tight control of local subsidiaries by central headquarters may allow rapid response to competitive conditions and redeployment of resources so as to facilitate expansion worldwide. For example, tightly centralized Japanese multinationals penetrate new markets in past through price subsidization funded by profitability operations elsewhere. Then you have information advantage. Prime example of mega national firm. Japanese trading companies Sogo Sushin are located in every corner of the world. Through the network of local officials, staffed primarily by Japanese expatriates, they optimize global business opportunities by tapping into price and delivery information about thousands of the products. Moving on to local responsiveness and differentiation. So here, what is differentiation? HR is being challenged to deliver more with less and the squeeze is tight. The only way to ensure that people practice and investments are optimized for organizational success is to focus on the areas of highest gain is maintaining the other elements of your HR functions at an appropriate level. In other words, keep Mickey engaged but target the sweepers. Some organizations have been operating this way for some time. For others, this is new concept and challenges some of the traditional way in which HR has been both practiced and perceived. So in many instances, the driving concept behind HR is that we need to treat people fairly and that this means treating them equally. Differentiated HR means maintains the need for treat people fairly and draw a line of distinction between fair and equal. More traditional view of HR needs to change if we are to meet the expectation of the business leaders and deliver the promise of our people. So the recent Great Recession has only accelerated the impetus and increased the urgency. Now coming on to mastering of expatriation. Mastering expatriation. So at a corporate HR conference in the United States in early 90s, one of the presenter commented that most international HR professionals devoted about 90% of their time to expatriate issue, 70% of it to compensation. This reflects the history orientation of American MNCs. Indeed, at early stage of internalization, the role of expatriates was critical, reinforced by later concerns for global integration strategy. Consequently, the international HR profession has historically been the domain of relocation specialists, consultants in compensation and benefits, and experts on international taxation. In the academic literature, field of international human resource management is also to a large extent synonymous with studies on expatriation. Today, the emphasis of international HR has changed dramatically. Nevertheless, the effective management of expatriation or more broadly of international transfers remain one of the foundation for implementing of global strategy. So it is very, very important the HR professionals should be masters in expatriation in order to have successful business overseas. Purpose of expatriation. If you see in this particular box here, so here the assignment duration of an expatriate is long and purpose of the assignment is demand driven, it is the corporate agency expatriation which is being done to control the host country
nationals as well as the host country business and the knowledge transfer to the host country nationals. When the assignment duration is long and assignment purpose is learning driven, that means to develop the competence of the employee, expatriation is being done, employees of that particular host country. When the assignment duration is short and the purpose of the assignment is demand driven, that time it is for problem solving. Then when the assignment duration is short and it is learning driven, then for career enhancement. So these are the purpose of expatriation. Moving down to beyond the traditional expatriate model. So here it speaks something beyond the traditional model of expatriation. So here few firms have launched their international expansion without at least a small core of expatriates. However, as company pursues internationalization, the inevitable tension of expatriate becomes apparent. So these tensions together with changing demographics of expatriate population, the growing number of women, third country nationals and younger expatriates are the added need to adjust to dual career are changing the way in which companies approach international assignments.